Welcome to the Eating at a Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Stuckrath, dietary needs expert, certified meetings manager, certified food protection manager. I have searched the globe to find people and businesses who are creating safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experiences for their employees, guests, and communities. In each episode, you will find authentic conversations about how food and beverage impacts inclusion, sustainability, culture, community, health, and wellness. I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to cover it all. Are you ready to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line? If so, let's go. Welcome to the Eating at a Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Stuckrath, founder of Eating at a Meeting, as well as Thrive Meetings and Events. And we're here every week talking to people who are in food and beverage, whether they're farmers or doctors or eaters or chefs. You're looking at a chef just to the right of me there, about food and beverage and how to create safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experiences. And for the month of March, I'm interviewing women in food and beverage to talk about how they're making their mark, making history in food and beverage. And today on the show is chef owner Siri Cooney of the Root Cellar in Carrboro, North Carolina. And actually, I should also say Pittsburgh, North. So hello, Sarah.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. So and just so you know, she's sitting outside of her cafe. And so I just said the snow white birds are chirping in her background. So I love it. When I posted it to the information about you today, I'm like, you grew up in a family of self-taught cooks. And I didn't put in there that you went to college and played soccer.
Yep.
You got a degree and then you decided, hey, I want to go to culinary school.
So yes, from an early age, I knew I wanted to be a chef, but I had this soccer career going on and I kind of wanted to go forward with that. I didn't actually graduate from college. I lasted 2 years and I had an injury. Okay. So I pretty much said, I'm tired of college. I'm ready to go to culinary school. So I moved back home and I went to culinary school. It was probably the smartest thing I did. I wasn't a great student, but I grew up in a family that loves to cook, loves to eat. So we were always cooking, eating, going out. We go on vacations. We never hit like the chain restaurants. We always hit independent. I mean, everything. Food Network, before Food Network, when it was PBS, it was always on TV at our house.
Okay, wait a minute. The Food Network was on PBS?
Well, no, but yeah, PBS was really the Food Network back in the day.
Wow.
You had all the chefs come on Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings after cartoons. And I mean, that's what I watched.
Oh, that's so funny. I just watched Wonder Kids Activate and then turned it off.
Yeah, no.
Wow.
We would watch Julia Child and Paul Prudhomme and Jacques Pepin and all that. Oh,
that's so awesome. Yep. Who knew?
I know.
What I missed out in my childhood.
Yep.
So how did growing up in a family of self-taught cooks and something that you wrote, you were making pasta and throwing it over the chairs in the kitchen chairs and to doing what you're doing right now. And you own with your wife a restaurant in Carrboro, North Carolina, which by the way, everybody is outside of Chapel Hill.
Yes.
To give some people some context.
So, I grew up in this Italian household. We never had jarred spaghetti sauce. You'd go to my grandparents and yes, there would be pasta draped over chairs. My grandmother would always pull things out of the freezer. There was always meatballs. We never ate like store-bought food. You can buy lasagnas already made or something like that. It was always made fresh. And then my mother's side of the family was Czech. So my grandmother would come down to visit and she'd make halushkis, which are similar to like spatzel and stuffed cabbage. And everything always revolved us being in a kitchen.
Okay.
It was just
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's still that way with my niece and nephew. We are always making things with them and stuff like that. They love to come to the restaurant. We make Christmas cookies, all sorts of stuff like that.
And then turning and running did you ever think that you would run your own restaurant, own it and run it?
Yes. So as a little girl, I was in the car with my mother. And we were listening to NPR, and it was a story about the Dixie Chicks and how every time they had a number one hit, they would get a chicken feet tattoos. It was a long time ago, and I turned to my mother and I said, Mom, when I own my own restaurant, we're going to get fork tattoos. And so, of course, my mother's like, sure, Sarah, whatever, you're 11. And everything happened. We bought this restaurant, and we needed to come up with a name. I wasn't happy with the name. And my wife goes, just put a fork in the logo and she'll be fine. So they put the fork in the logo. I was like, it's great. So that year I gave my mom a fake tattoo thing. And I was like, hey, we're going to get our forks. And she's like, no. I agreed to that because it would never happen. And since then, I've gotten 2 fork tattoos, one for here and one for the Pittsburgh store. And then as things go on, I can always add more.
And your mother still just has a henna tattoo?
Yep. We draw it on with Sharpie with her every once in a while.
And now is she close to you or is she still up north?
Nope. We actually all live in the same development.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So she's very close. I see her every other day.
Okay, good. Well, and I live with my mom and dad, so I see them every day as well. So it's nice to be close to family and be in the kitchen with them as well.
Yes.
So one of the things that I really, when I was researching you, Googling you, everything comes back to making sure that no one goes hungry.
Yes, it's very.
And from your growing up, it doesn't seem like you were hungry. So what instituted that, or was that the impetus to make sure that no one else feels hungry?
I just feel like as a chef, we are taught to feed people. And yes, we are taught to feed people who have money because that's the only way we're going to make money. But I feel that nobody should go without a real meal. It's just something I really believe. I've always believed it. I would be sitting here and let's say somebody walked up, I would give them food. It's just such a strong thing that 2.3 billion people are without food right now. And I know a lot of it also is because of the pandemic, but that's a lot of people. And it's really sad when we live in a country that offers so much and we're supposed to be this amazing country that we have so many people that are hungry. We always are very apt to go, oh, Africa, they're starving children. There are starving children, right? And I feel like that we forget or we don't want to help because it's not as spectacular as I just fed a whole village in Africa.
Right.
But, everybody here, and you don't know, like you go to school, the kids get free lunches or whatever. You don't know. That might be their only meal. So it really bothers me as a chef.
So what ways are you working to end hunger in Pittsburgh and Carrboro?
So I do a lot with Cora, which is our local food bank. And throughout the pandemic, I was making gallons of soup for them every week. Like I cleaned out our walk-in when we found out we were shutting down. We made, I think it was over 1,000 gallons of soup throughout that year and a half.
Wow.
And then I was just asked to be part of a board for a Pay What You Can restaurant that is coming to Pittsburgh. It's called Quilt Makers. Obviously, it's right up my alley. And Pittsburgh is still very rural. So the whole county, Chatham County, is still very rural. We do have a lot of hungry people. I think it's 1 in 8 is.
Wow.
Yeah, 1 in 8, which is a lot of people. Yes. So it really hits home for me because it could be a staff member that we just don't know.
Right.
We don't know. And no kid should ever go hungry. It's sad.
It is very sad. And it reminds me of a story of a chef in San Francisco. I don't remember what conference I heard it at, but somebody was telling the story of this gentleman who walked out of his restaurant and found his executive sous chef sleeping in the car. Right. Because he had no idea that his executive sous, and he ended up helping him get housing and things like that. But we don't know. I mean, this is a guy that's worked side by side with this person every single day and had no clue.
Yeah. I mean, we really don't know. And I guess the pandemic really taught me that we are all one step away from that.
Right.
I mean, it shook the world and a lot of people lost housing. Everybody lost jobs. And it really affected. We don't know how long that's going to affect people.
Right. Well, and if you think about me, I mean, I moved in with my parents before the pandemic hit, but if I hadn't, I would be one of those people dramatically impacted because I'm an event planner. I lost all my business because of it. Yeah. So one thing I said to you before we got on is that restaurants always give. Right. And you said you're there to feed people and you guys, you don't make a lot of bank. You're not these rich hoity-toity people, but you're always giving food and serving people.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's this double-edged sword, I guess. Like, yes, I would love to have tons of money and do whatever I would do with said money. But the fact that I know that when I give something to either somebody here in this town or this county or whatever, I know it's helping those people. And one thing I did learn through COVID was when I was donating to Cora, one lady told them, because I literally would make quarts of soup for them and then they would give it out because you're only allowed, I think it's 2 times to come and get these boxes of food a month. But since I was making this soup, they could give it out as much as they wanted. And a woman said, oh my God, when I get back on my feet, I'm going to go support this restaurant.
Oh!
Like that was like, you're going to, like, I've been doing this for you, not looking for anything, but this woman was so happy knowing that she wasn't getting a salt laden whatever soup. It was like homemade and everything that she's going to come and support us. Like, who knows? This woman could also become an employee. We don't know. Like, you just don't know where your reach is going to get to.
Well, and I think that's telling to something that I read too, that you put in there is like a lot of the stuff that people get at pantries is boxed food and it's high in salt or it's high in sugar and you're providing scratch kitchen food to them.
Yeah. I mean, the food I give them is what I would serve a paying customer, which I mean, that's a lot.
That is a lot. And I think in a home cooked meal, and I wrote it in the title of this thing, a home cooked meal is everything, right? Yeah. It's how to nourish somebody in so many ways.
Yeah. I mean, you could sit down with 8 strangers over a meal and become good friends.
Right. Yep. So Nancy just typed in, when chefs, restaurants are serving the community in this way, patrons who can support them should support them. 100%, Nancy. I agree with that. And I'm going to put a link to the quilt. Tell me a little bit more about the quilt kitchen.
Okay. So it's called Quilt Makers
Cafe.
Quilt Makers Cafe. The founding woman is very dear to her heart. She is also a local Chatham resident. She decided to do this. She's gone to a bunch of them around the country. And her whole thing is the same thing, that everybody deserves a hot meal. One of the things is Quilt Maker Cafe. It's Quilt Makers was a book and about how they gave quilts or something like that. So that her daughter, when she said, hey, I want to do this, the daughter said, you need to name it Quilt Makers. So there's even like a child's book that goes along with it. And we're still in the planning stages. We're hoping to open this summer. We're looking at a spot, and there's a lot of us on this board from all walks of life. So there's 2 chefs, and then there's a gentleman who does something with water and a bunch of stuff like that. But it's something that we all strongly agree on, that nobody should go hungry. Our menu will be small. It'll be a lot of local things. So we'll also be helping the local economy by buying pork sausage and coffee and lettuce from the local farmers of Chatham County. And then it's also like you could come in and there will be no prices. It'll just be a transparency board saying electricity X, rent X, and then you can just give a donation. So let's say you think, oh, my meal's worth $20. So you give them $20. But let's say you come in and you can't afford $20. You just get your meal. We haven't decided how we're going to do that yet either. Some places do tokens and some people do that. But you also, as a person, could volunteer. So you can volunteer to work for food. You can volunteer just because you are bored. You can volunteer because you've always wanted to work in a restaurant, but you never did. And you can volunteer and work in the restaurant. And there's a lot of things you can do to like offset everybody's pricing. But it's about, most people pay. You're not going to not pay if you can afford to pay.
Right.
You know, it's kind of.
You would hope so.
Yes, you would hope so. You would hope so. Yep.
Yes. That's amazing. And before the show, you said there's 2 others in North Carolina. Is that
there's
correct?
One in Raleigh that is doing very well. And then there's one in Boone.
Okay. And then, so Boone is Asheville area, which is the west. And then where you and Raleigh are central. And then we need one on my side in the coast.
You do need one on your side. I mean, I guess Bon Jovi has really set it off for everybody because I believe he has 2 now.
Oh, really?
Yes. He started one and it's, cranking out.
Okay. Let's call Bon Jovi. Sure. Yeah. I have no problem calling him and helping him.
Yes, come on. Me neither. Play a concert or something to raise some money.
Right, exactly. Right. So one of the things that you just said a few minutes ago was you're going to buy and support the local farmers. So when, I talk about being safe, sustainable, and inclusive, what does that mean to you?
So the sustainability is you buy from your local area, be it Chatham, be it Orange, be it Durham County. You're supporting that local economy. I know where my food is coming from. I know how it got there. I know it's not coming on a truck. It sat on a truck for 3 weeks. It came from wherever. I know who grew it. And then like I'm also giving somebody a job in that area to work on that farm. And it just everything tastes better. It's fresher. It stays fresh longer. It makes a lasting impact on knowing that my tomatoes came from Joe down the street. He grew them. He's a 3rd generation tomato farmer.
Wow.
Kind of thing like that. Yeah.
Oh, I need to stop. I actually drove by a farmer's market the other day coming back from Carrboro and saw fresh tomatoes out there. I'm hoping
Saturday is the Carrboro's farmer's market.
Oh, okay.
Saturday
I will be coming by. Okay.
Yes, it's a good one.
Okay. I will definitely be coming by.
Yeah.
Yay. And part of the sustainability aspect of that and knowing who you are, I put out the question of where under the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 goals that relate to you most. And you said all of them relate to me, but 3 really, really mean a lot to you, which is number 2, zero hunger, 5, gender equality, and 10, reduced inequality. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Well, obviously, No Kid Hungry is super popular.
Right.
I obviously really want to see nobody go hungry. The inequality, it's hard. I have friends who have all sorts of, I don't know, just difficulties in maybe getting jobs because of mental health, physical, any of those kind of things. And it's really sad. Also, I'm older. So you look at a resume and you're like, oh, that person graduated in 84. You're like, that person's old. No, they should never be that on. Nobody should put that on. It doesn't matter how old you are. And I really hate the fact that's the way the country looks at things. The mental health aspect of everything really has impacted a lot of things, especially due to COVID. I think you see gaps on people's resumes and they don't know how to explain it. They don't feel comfortable explaining it. But I feel like that just a whole problem. And then disability, like it's like a lot of jobs you can't do, and it shouldn't be that way. I feel like if it's a job, anybody should be able to do it. We need to make better arrangements and things. I don't know if we'll ever see that, but I would really like to see our country get better at things like that. And then the whole like women's, people of color inequality. I'm a woman. I have seen it so many times. I have workmen come into the restaurant and they immediately go to the man in the kitchen.
What?
And yes, I'm not a original. Yes, I've had them go and be like, I don't look like a normal restaurant person. I'm in like t-shirt and I have tattoos and I have the hair and stuff like that. So a lot of people will just overlook me and think I'm just some person. But I've had workmen come in and go straight for the men in the kitchen and say, oh, this needs to be fixed. And they're like, you need to talk to her over there. And they're like, oh, and then they downplay it and they try to explain it to me. And I was like, dude, I've been doing this longer than you've been alive. Like, what do I need to fix? I've had drivers and stuff be like, hey, sugar, where you want this? And I'm like, excuse me? I mean, I am not an original Southerner. So that whole sugar, and I know I need to like, it's to be polite.
Right.
But it just always has been weird. It's just weird to me. So I'll be like, excuse me, my name is Sarah. And they're like, oh, sorry. But and I was like, yeah, it's fine. But the worst experience I ever had was I was straight out of culinary school and I interviewed at a job and the man literally told me, you will never work in a kitchen. You're a woman. And I literally was like, very well. And I literally got up. He goes, you could be a waitress. And I was like, that's not what I went to school for. And I got up and left.
Wow.
Yeah. It was
and that was an interview for a job?
Over 25 years ago. And it's still to this day I still think about it all the time.
Wow.
And I've always surrounded myself with strong women like Sarah Foster. I bought this place from her. She was always a good influence on me. And I just, still to this day, that man has really made me angry.
You should go find him.
Yeah, I should. He's probably not even alive. He was older. But it's just one of those things that they want women to cook at home. Mm-hmm. But, it's still, nobody wants us in the kitchen. And you see women making it, and you see like the James Beard Awards came out, and you see a lot of women on those short lists. And you're like, yes, but we we shouldn't have to go, wow, that woman made it. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't be girl chef. It shouldn't be woman chef. It should just be chef. They never say, oh, this chef, man chef. They never say anything like that, but they always say woman chef. Why do we have to have the word woman? Why, like, all these, can't we all just be chefs? Why is there actor, actress? Like, when does that kind of like just stop? Yeah.
That's really true.
Yeah.
Well, it reminds me of a list I promoted, but I know it was for Women's History Month, so I know that's why they put female in front of it. But still, I get it. It should just be chef or actor or driver or yes. Yeah. Okay, but on that note, you and I both belong to an organization called Les Dames d'Escoffier.
Yes.
And you co-founded our chapter in North Carolina. Can you talk about Les Dames?
So, yeah, we are a woman culinary field organization. We do a lot of all sorts of things like mentoring, fundraising for women in the field, students in the field. And it's not just, hey, I want to join this group. You have to apply, you have to be mentored. So it's not just, I'm going to join the Culinary Federation or something like that. It means a lot. As a young girl, when I was coming up, one of the restaurants I worked in, one of the owner's wives was a member, and I remember her telling me about it. And this was in Connecticut, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like, I would love to be a part of it. And I moved down here. We didn't have it. Colleen and a few other people had sent messages and was like, do you want to do this? And I was like, yeah. So I went to a meeting right next door at Flyleaf, and I was like, yes, this is what I've wanted to be part of for so long. And it's so wonderful. Like, I can reach out to people in this group and ask them questions about things, and they are so supportive. I could say, hey, I'm going to be in Winston next week. Who wants to have dinner? Yeah, I mean, it's just so wonderful. I wish we were closer. I wish we met more. I know COVID has done a lot to that, but it's just an awesome feeling to be part of this women's group that puts women first. We're not trying to one-up each other. We're not being like, hey, I just did this. No, Stephanie was nominated for a James Beard. We all rallied behind her. Like, yes, you did it. Like, we're so proud of you. Like, that's what I love. And I don't feel like always the culinary field is that way. A lot of times it's, I got this. I'm going to stomp on you to get to there. And I feel like it's just it's an awesome organization to be part of.
But on not wanting to call out females, how does DOMS help bridge that stereotype? Does that make sense? Or bridge the gap and just let's make sure that it's just a chef versus female chef.
I think, obviously we do say we're women.
Right.
It's in the name. But I feel that we're still always calling each other chefs, not woman chef. We support each other. I mean, our last fundraiser before COVID was we had guys do the food and everything to show support for the women, because it was when the Me Too movement first had started. So we got a lot of the local
Was that the oyster thing that we went to?
No, that was at Lavender Oaks Farm.
Yes, that's the one I went to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, that one. I mean, so the guys rallied around it, which is awesome. But, it's still woman chef.
Right.
But it's supporting. So we're supporting these young women, like the culinary schools, the people coming up. Like, I tell my young chefs, like, hey, this is what we do. You too could be a part of this. Keep working, keep, grinding, keep going. And I'm like, you could do this. Like, it's an awesome organization. And yes, it's not for everybody, but I really feel like we are trying to make a difference in the culinary women's side of the world.
And I actually need to figure out how we nominate some new people, because I've got some ideas on who from my part of the
coming
world.
Up. Yeah. I think it's coming up soon. Yeah.
One's a farmer. So yeah.
Oh yeah. We don't have many farmers.
Yeah. Oh, she's awesome. I love her. Okay. So one of the random things that you've done, and you've done it twice, was you were on Guy's Grocery Games.
2-time loser.
Oh, well, don't say that.
It sounds funny.
2-time loser. Okay.
2-time loser. Yep.
Okay. Well, I wasn't going to point that out. What I wanted to point out and what I wanted to ask is, like, you have 20 minutes to make a dish, and he gives you, like, you have to run around this grocery store and pick items. How in the heck do you do that? Just from experience of going to culinary school? Because I look at menus for 2 days and I still can't figure out what I want to make.
I'm always thinking so Pittsburgh, I do a different menu every week. So I'm always coming up with new ideas. And it might be Friday morning when I'm like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. So I don't plan. You do only get 20 minutes.
And you did fried
chicken livers, like fried chicken.
Fried chicken livers. Okay, sorry.
But I do go into it going, don't stray from what you know. So don't all of a sudden decide to like freeze dry something. I go into knowing this is what you do, Sarah. Don't stray from it. Don't try something new. Don't do anything crazy. Just kind of go with it. And you literally run around the store and you look at things. You're like, I'll just grab this and I'll figure it out on the way. So literally I'm just, I just grab things. I'm like, I'll make it work. And sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. But there's so much adrenaline going on. It's fun. It's hard. It's nerve-wracking, but
I'm sure
once it starts, you don't even think about it.
Yeah. Okay.
You're just I got to find this stuff and get back and pick out plates. And I have now 12 minutes.
Oh, you also have to pick the plate that you're going to put it on.
You have to find the plate.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, and somebody was knocking somebody on Wheel of Fortune the other day about not knowing an answer. And Alex Trebek got on, no, not Alex Trebek, Pat Sajak, right?
Yeah.
Got onto Twitter and said, please stop ranting on this person. He's like, you don't know how hard it is actually to be in the studio and trying to answer these questions. You're just sitting at home on your couch and you can see it, right? Yeah. And so just like you said, that adrenaline comes in and your brain, you can have a brain fart and you have no idea, or it kicks in and you create something magical. So, but I also want to tie that back to the fact that you did a watch party for your episode and you did a watch party to raise money to give back to the community. So again, it all comes back to, I love that fact that you're feeding people constantly.
Yes. It's instilled in me, I guess.
Your mom raised you right. Yeah, and your dad. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, one of the things when you went to my grandmother's or have you eaten, like you come to my house, are you hungry? That's like the first thing I'll say. Hey, are you hungry? You want something? Even if we just had lunch.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. And one other odd thing that you do, well, maybe not anymore, I learned before we started, is that you do strongman competitions and you pull airplanes.
Yep. I do.
How in the world did you get into that? And how do you pull an airplane?
So I started with CrossFit and then I did it for a long time and realized I don't like to run. I don't like burpees. I don't like any of those things. I just like to lift heavy things. And then at my gym, there's a few of us who started doing it. And I was like, oh, I really like this. So I've done a couple of local competitions. You kind of just train and lift things and like to pull a plane. There's no way to practice unless you own a plane, I guess. I practice with sleds and putting weights on it and just walking, and it's a good stress reliever. It all still ties into restaurant work because you're constantly moving, constantly lifting things. You're constantly moving. If you're not in shape, it's hard. I will go back to it once I am cleared. Something I really like to do, and it makes me feel good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing, so that just reminded me, a couple of months ago, I was in Vegas and at Caesars Forum, and they were talking about hiring new staff, wait staff. And one of the things that they do is they actually, one of the tests is like, hey, here's a full tray of 10 plates. And can you get across the ballroom? And the Caesars Forum ballroom is humongous, right?
Yeah.
But that was one of their tests because it is hard work.
Yeah.
Being a server, being a cook in the back on your feet all day long. Yeah.
I mean, flour is 50 pounds, sugar. I mean, you have to be able to pick it up.
Right. So what about, how can people support the Quilt Makers Cafe? I put the link in there.
Okay. So we're looking for donations.
Okay.
When we open, we'll be looking for volunteers. I mean, if somebody needs a job, we're going to be looking for kitchen staff. We're going to be looking for front of the house. Just spreading the word is also helping. It's not like we have a huge budget, so the Facebook posts and all those things go a long way.
Right.
Who knows? Maybe Bon Jovi will see it.
I did put his link to his restaurants in the comments, but why not, right?
Yeah, you never know.
Exactly. Just tag them every single time you post
Yeah.
it. And I think that goes back to one other thing that I ask you is what is it about what you do that you want people to know, that you wish people knew about what you do?
Yeah. I mean, everybody assumes restaurateurs and chefs live this glamorous life. We don't. I mean, yes, there are the top tier ones that do. I am working 24/7. To have a day off is very hard. My phone rings constantly, or the oven breaks, or things like. But there's nothing I'd rather do when I'm not working. I want to be working. I love to be here. I love to see customers. I love to talk to people. I love to cook for people. I love to see their faces when they get their food and stuff like that. It makes me happy. But it's not for, oh, I think I can open a restaurant. It's for somebody who knows they want to give up a lot.
Well, that's very true, because you do give up a lot running your own business, but also running one that is serving the community as every single day.
Yes.
And how has that, because of COVID, how are you doing?
We're doing okay. So this store, Chapel Hill, we were lucky enough. We were doing a family dinner plan. We had started in 2008. So it was like, it's 5 meals for 2 people. You pick it up. It was predated Blue Apron kind of food. So we were deemed essential. So we kept that going throughout COVID, and we added a lot of things like wine boxes, beer boxes, coffee, toilet paper, anything fresh vegetables. I did a produce box. So that kind of kept us through COVID and kept a good amount of our employees still. And then we slowly opened just for takeout. And takeout's not saving anybody. Like, it's really not. And then this summer, we opened our dining room back up for in-store dining. But we used to be open 8 to 8, and now we're only 8 to 3. Pittsburgh, we shut the store down on March 16th, 2020. And then in September, we opened as pop-ups. And it was just Friday, Saturday night. And I would do different countries every week to give the area. We don't have many restaurants. It gave the people who live there different restaurants every week. And we found that they didn't want what we were doing here. They didn't want sandwiches. They didn't want all that stuff. They liked the idea of this. So I kept the pop-ups going with the countries for a long time. And then when I ran out of countries, I just started doing menus. But we're still only open Friday and Saturday. It's hard to find staff out there. The staff is so small. There's 5 of us. That's front and house. Our general manager actually moved into the kitchen, and so she's been working in the kitchen with me this whole time. We do 8 items a week, 8 or 9. Like I said, they change every week. I try to change them seasonally. I try to get what I can from the local farmers and the local farms and everything else we have around here. But it has been tough, but it really made us realize that we always were of the fact you don't close, you don't close, you don't close, you work on shoestrings. And we learned that COVID, it's okay to close. It's okay to say, I don't have staff today. We can't open. I think we're all in the same boat. I think it's going to be still a while for restaurants to pick back up. The mask mandate really helped when they got rid of it. We saw more people come. I think now that people have been vaccinated, it's also helped. But, who knows?
Yeah. So with all of this words of wisdom that you've provided already today, and just in just what you do by your actions, how do you want to be remembered in history?
Gosh, I don't know. I guess as a good person. Like, I strive to be that good person. It's hard to be a good person, I feel. There's so much negativity. I just want people to remember that I fed people and that I made a difference in somebody's life. Who knows?
That's a really good way to be remembered in history, is that you fed somebody. I really do like that. And I probably should have ended on that, but because you spent the time in the kitchen with your grandmother and stuff, other family members, did you get any words of wisdom from them?
To use good ingredients. I mean, my grandmother and grandfather, they both were Italian. They were always making food. He cooked for an Italian American club. My grandmother would make cannolis for some Italian festival, and they always made everything from scratch. I mean, granted, 30 years ago, there wasn't boxed stock and all that kind of stuff, but she always made everything from scratch, and she always instilled to use good ingredients. The same with my grandmother on my mom's side, who was Czech. They always used good ingredients. They never would skimp on something.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And Vivian Howard, the comment about the box stock is kind of a shout out to you as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And anybody go check out Vivian Howard's Instagram post about box stock versus using bouillon cubes.
The little squares.
Yes. They're actually better for the planet to use the bouillon.
They are better. I am going to buy some. And it'll enrich your stocks even more.
That was just brilliant. So thank you, Vivian Howard, North Carolina chef, doing that. So I don't have any other questions for you because I just think what you're doing and supporting, feeding people and just wanting to be just a good person is the way to end on this show. Yeah. So thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate it. Everybody, I put the links in there to reach out to Sarah. And actually, you can find her on Instagram, Sarah or Cooneyverse. On it's not .com, Cooneyverse. There you go. And then the Cafe Root Cellar is the website to check out the restaurant. Pittsburgh, if you're ever in the Chapel Hill area, please go by and support her or even Pittsburgh as well. Yeah. Okay, what time's the farmer's market on Saturday and what time do you open so I can do both? We
open at 8.
Okay.
The farmer's market, I think, starts at 8.
Okay.
It goes till noon.
Okay.
So you have plenty of time.
Okay, perfect. I will be there bright and early. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to the Eating at a Meeting podcast, where we talk to experts and influencers like Sarah here on how to create safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experiences, no matter where we are in the world. And until next week, which we will actually have 2 episodes on Wednesday, I'll post them tomorrow. Tune in next week. And until then, stay safe and eat well. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Eating at a Meeting podcast, where every meal matters. I'm Tracy Stuckrath, your food and beverage inclusion expert. Call me and let's get started right now on creating safe and inclusive food and beverage experiences for your customers, your employees, and your communities. Share the podcast with your friends and colleagues at our Eating at a Meeting Facebook page and on all podcast platforms. To learn more about me and receive valuable information, go to tracystuckrath.com. And if you'd like more information on how to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line, then visit eatingatameeting.com.